I'm not going to allow what's going on to change my character and my approach to really delivering the gospel. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, people are going to look back and say, where were you and how did you respond in this moment? And I want people to be like, you know what? Even unbelievers, they would see me and they'd be like, you know what? He didn't respond like everybody else, yet he still loved and yet he still cared. There's something about this guy that I want to know more about. And that thing that they're going to want to know more about is Christ.
Welcome to the Israel Collective. I'm Nair, joined by a legend, Mr. Tommie Billups. And I asked you before we even started how you want me to introduce you. I'm going to go down the list. Musician, pastor, just wise dude. Let's go with that. Just a guy full of wisdom. So how are you, my man?
And I'm doing good. No, I'm really good.
You know, I obviously want to talk a lot about our time in Israel because I know it impacted you a lot. But let's talk a little bit about current events. You know, I follow you intensely on Facebook, and man, the wisdom you're dropping is just incredible. So if you don't mind, I just want to get right into it. Just because I see you as such a purveyor of the tension of truth and grace. And anyway, here's my question. Where should the church be in everything that's happening with the racial issues facing our country?
The church should be on the front line, leading it, really. You know, you look back through history, through civil rights movements and things like that, and the church was like the pillar of all those movements. And I feel like we kind of took the back seat. You know, we're allowing these movements to lead us, and we're not being led by them. And, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in the emotion of it. But I believe the church needs to be on the front line, giving people direction, giving people hope, and just leading it out.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. But I think the hard part, and maybe there's some folks watching this that are you know, members of the church, and they say, okay, so what do I actually, like, how do I, as a follower of Jesus who sees the injustices, how do I partner with someone like you, or how do I actually affect change in the name of Jesus over what's happening in our country?
Well, I just go and do it. I think everything, when we wait around too much, you know, sometimes we, like, I told a friend before that I feel like the church is more reactive than proactive. We wait for something to happen, then we respond. But if we get out in front of it and just lead, like it really takes nothing to lead, whether you're a pastor, just a person that just goes to the church. Lead in Christ, man. Everything that you do, man, just show them the love of Christ, man, and let that lead you. I think that's just the only way to do it. To do it is to do it. You can't wait around. You can't, you know, wait till some organization put something together. You have to go out there with the heart of God and really just lead it.
Come on, man. I first off, I'm just so glad. I haven't seen your face in like I think a year or so, and I'm just excited to hang out with you. So let's talk about Israel, man. What's as is an open-ended question, what sticks out about that experience? What stayed with you and impacted you?
What stayed with me that impacted me the most was seeing how history and the Bible, like, you can't have one without the other. Like, it was like literally being there and seeing the Bible, not just through the perspective of a Christian, but the perspective of history. Like, I felt like if you would have took somebody that was an unbeliever on that trip, by the end of that trip, they would have had no other choice of, like, you know what, all of this stuff is real. Like, I can't deny it any longer. The historical evidence is here. I would be foolish to deny it. So just that reality alone was what really stuck with me, that this really happened. These weren't just stories in the Bible. Like, this stuff really happened. It happened in these places. And to see not only that, but the fact that, like, the culture in the Bible is still there in that, you know, in Israel. Like, the people are still speaking the languages, doing the customs, everything that were there thousands and thousands of years ago is just amazing.
You know, God's doing a billion things through the Israel Collective. But if there's one thing that I think you just kind of hit on that I always like to get excited about, is that by taking leaders of the church, the American church over there, it brings a humanity to the story, right? Like, I know it sounds so trite and trivial, But like on day one of the things that I normally say is, hey guys, guess what? It's all true. And I think there was this weird thing that happened maybe a couple decades ago where it was like, don't ask questions, which to me is so antithetical to everything God does. He wants us to be in relationship with him, to wrestle with them, to get to the meat of the issue, you know? And so actually getting to see the Bible come to life every time, I just love watching the light bulbs go, oh, so this happened to a
Yeah,
real dude right here. Ah,
yeah.
man, I love it. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, how's being an influencer and a pastor and a musician? How has any of your experience in Israel, I guess, translated into the way you approach things?
Just like kind of what you said, just the humanity of it. It allows me to really just take people, as humans first. Just realize that I can be so super spiritual sometimes and like miss out on like the human relationship, the human interaction with people, and just really trying to connect to that. And that's really probably the thing that I translate over the most in that trip from Israel.
We got to experience a lot of things that the normal tourist train doesn't necessarily get to do. We go all over. We get to meet people from all walks of life. Um, what what's like one perspective or one little nugget of information about the current state of Israel that you were able to, okay, I have now more of a nuanced context of what we're talking about when you watch the news or whatever. Was there something that you saw, experienced, witnessed, heard, discussed with that was like, oh, that's really interesting?
Well, kind of like the whole situation with the fighting over Israel. I think I was able to, like I said, like we talked about, just the understanding why it's that way right now. Opposed, like you look at the news and it's just like constant. Number one is I was surprised when I got over there. When I first was told I was going over there, I would get text messages and call her, "Hey, be safe. It's dangerous over there." And then to get over there and it's not dangerous and it's not like the way that they portray it in the news. But then to also see like there is actual situations where people don't like each other, and understanding the context of it makes it more, oh, okay, I get it. I understand why this is an issue in Israel right now. And just seeing that was kind of a eye opener.
That's amazing. Let me ask you, I guess, one more personal question. I guess these have all been kind of personal questions. How are, as a leader, as someone who kind of lives between different worlds, how has this whole situation the past month or so impacted you, and how are you able to digest it and still speak so much wisdom about it, and also reach out to people that, because when I'm on your Facebook or I'm looking at your social media, you have a beautiful way of articulating hard, uncomfortable truths and having those conversations with people that are in different spheres. So how has this impacted you, and how have you seen people in the church specifically, I guess, been able to I guess come together, if that's a word, but yeah, I guess in a nutshell, just how are you doing?
Well, I try my best because you look at the news and you see what's going on, and it's there's validity to the frustration. There's validity to anger, just the tension and everything like that. But the one thing that keeps me grounded is understanding that even though I'm living in this world, I can't approach these issues the same way that the world approaches these issues. And that's so hard to do when, if somebody hits you in the face and you in front of that person, you gotta be like, man, God, he's right there. I can get him right. Like, and trying to control that and really live through like, okay, I'm not going to allow what's going on to change my character and my approach to really delivering the gospel. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, people are going to look back and say, where were you and how did you respond in this moment? And I want people to be like, you know what? Even unbelievers, they would see me and they'd be like, you know what? He didn't respond like everybody else, yet he still loved and yet he still cared. There's something about this guy that I want to know more about. And that thing that they're gonna want to know more about is Christ, is God. So it was like I have to be that in every moment. It's hard, but that's kind of been my grounding point, and that's why I kind of approach and speak, the way that I speak, because I want people to understand that, as corny as it sounds, love is the answer. Like the only way that we can truly win people and really change the world is loving people the way that Christ loves people, loving people the way that the Bible tells us to love people. Jesus came and said, listen, I got 2 commandments for y'all. Love the Lord God with all your heart, and love your neighbor like you love yourself. You do those 2 things, you cover every commandment. And it's like, literally, it's really that simple. And when we do those things, you can't really change a person's life without relationship, and you can't have relationship without love. So in order for me to change a racist person's mind, I have to lay down my disdain for their character and love them in order for them to, hey, you can't be this way. This is how you need to be. I have to be able to lay aside the validity of my aggression, the validity of my frustration, and put God first. And it's in this society is frowned upon, in the African American community. For some people, like, man, you always loving people. You need to. You can't, like, nah. Yeah, I'm not choosing sides. I got one side, and that's God's side. So, it has to be that way. That's the only way that this can be done.
Bro, you just took us to church, man. Hey, I appreciate that answer. That's why I'm literally liking and hearting and caring everything you post on Facebook. How can people get in touch with your stuff? I know you're on Spotify, you're on Facebook. What else?
Yeah, I literally, Tommie Billups everywhere. There's Tommie with the IE, even though everybody still spells my name with the Y. But you can find me everywhere at Tommie Billups on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, all those places that music is sold. My website is TommieB.com. But
Bro,
yeah, that's where.
When are you dropping a new album, man?
I'm working on it, man. I haven't really been invested in my music like in the past, because I've been doing other things, like just being more active and speaking and things like that. And now I'm kind of in a place. Plus, I was diagnosed with COVID when that whole thing went down, so I was kind of shut down for a few months.
Wait, I didn't see that on your Facebook. Wait, time out. You had it?
Yeah. Back in April, I was diagnosed with COVID. And it was scary. Like day 3, I just knew that was my last day on earth. But
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Bro, walk me through this. What was it like?
So one day I was at home, and I was coughing or whatever, and I was having a hard time breathing. So I'm like, what, let me go down there, get tested, make sure everything is good, because I have my kids. And the doctor comes in after they gave me the test. He comes in. They come back in later and like, you have COVID. And when I say, it was literally like in those movies where like everything is drowned out. Like I was zoned out. Nothing he was saying was audible at all. I'm just literally like, what the heck did he just say? And then last thing I remember was, do you have any questions? So they sent me home. Told me to quarantine for 2 weeks. I did that. Didn't see my kids for 2 weeks. That was rough. Man, being alone in those moments, man, I feel for those people that's in the hospital, because being alone in moments like that is scary as heck. Like I said, day 3 or 4, I literally felt like I was going to die. So I get past that, and I'm happy. 2 days later, symptoms come back even stronger. So I'm like, did I get it again? I go to the hospital, and they said, hey, we're going to keep you here. You have a severe case of pneumonia. So after being quarantined for 2 weeks, I'm back in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 5 days because I had a severe case of pneumonia. They said that's really what normally happens. People who get COVID come down with a bad case of pneumonia. So I'm in the hospital for 5 days. I get out. I have to quarantine. Well, I didn't have to quarantine, but they put me on like rest for another week. So almost 2 months without seeing my kids, without interacting with anybody, just dealing with this. And I'm finally coming out of it. I'm just happy. And it gave me a new perspective on life, because life is short, man. I had a lot of time to myself, and to really think like, man, what am I doing with myself right now? Like at any moment I could be gone. And did I do, like, literally, and I don't want to sound extra deep, but it was just like, did I do what God called me to do on this earth? I found myself trying to stay busy doing any and everything, but it came down to like, yo, what are you really doing that God has called you to do? That's kind of why I kind of put my music on the back burner and everything like that. because I wanted to focus on really what God was calling me to. And in this moment, I realized, moments like this, being the light and talking to people and building relationships, I believe that's what God has called me to do right now in this moment. And that's all I've been focused on. So yeah, that was my COVID story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea. So, wow. Well, I'm really glad that you're doing better now. Obviously, I'm still kind of in shock that you had it, and wow, praise God that you're okay. And so, wow, seems like you've kind of experienced firsthand, for obvious reasons, everything that 2020 has thrown your way, and yet you still
Literally.
not only show faith, but generosity and love and kindness, man. I just love you. Like
I love you too,
I'm a
man.
fan of you, bro. Like I really love you. Well, hey man, like I'll let you get back to your kids, but one last question. Can you give us a memory? It doesn't have to be funny. It can be, it doesn't have to be. Or it can be very impactful. Very, very impactful. I don't care. Just one memory from Israel that sticks out to you.
Man, I can come off the top of that. When we had communion at the tomb, man, that was probably the most impactful moment. I remember we were having communion. There were other people there having communion as well, and we were kind of having worship. And there was a moment where a guy came and hugged me. I didn't understand anything that he was saying, but I felt what he was saying, and I felt the love of God, and I literally like was in tears seeing that people from all over the world are here in the place where Jesus was buried, remembering him at this moment. And everyone like literally looked different, black, white, different languages. And it was like, man, like I can only imagine what heaven is going to look like when we get there. Like, and that's why it's so crazy that we're experiencing this whole race thing that's going on in the world. And it's like, we have to understand, like, there are going to be people there when we get to heaven that looks nothing like us, that sounds nothing like us, but we all have one thing, like one thing that's holding us all together, and that's God. And being in that moment, it was like, this is the God moment that's throughout the Bible. You are all here for this moment, to experience God. So that was probably like my greatest memory when I was there in Israel.
Tommy, we could go on for a long, long time. I already told you to come out to San Diego with your family,
Probably,
and we'll do the whole Southern California thing. Tommy, thank you so much for being on this with us. I love you. I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.
all right.